Everyone is sleeping on Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers has a legitimate chance to become a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL this season. I know that's a very bold statement, but when you actually break down his game and where this Ravens offense is headed, it is not as nearly crazy as it sounds. Right now, Zay Flowers is already one of the NFL's best receivers, but making that jump from a top 10 to top 15 receiver to a top 5 receiver isn't just simply about reinventing his game as a whole. It's about refining what makes you great as a NFL wide receiver. And with the offense around him going into 2026, it could be a perfect opportunity for Zay Flowers to make that leap into one of the NFL's most elite and highly regarded NFL receivers. So we're going to break down, obviously, today what Zay Flowers can do to become an NFL top 5 receiver and how special this upcoming 2026-2027 season could be for Zay Flowers. But before we get into that, you guys are going to want to make sure to subscribe to Ravens Digest. 90% of you guys are unsubscribed. It is completely free, no cost at all, and we're providing Ravens videos and updates every single day. You guys are not going to want to miss out on any of the content we're providing you guys at all. Now, going into 2026-2027, Zay Flowers, as we know, has already done the hard part, and he has become the Ravens' number 1 receiver and true number 1 option. The NFL League has always valued bigger receivers who can win physically, but Zay Flowers has proved that he can be very dominant in multiple different ways. Zay Flowers' game is built around his quickness, the way that he can create separation, the explosive plays that he gets, and the yards after the catch, also known as YAC, that Zay Flowers provides the Ravens and Lamar Jackson from that deep ball perspective. He is no longer now just trying to get involved on the Ravens wide receiver room. He is somebody that the Baltimore Ravens, going into a game, defenses have to focus and hone in on from a wide receiver perspective due to how versatile Zay Flowers is in this regard. Now that we know that Zay Flowers is one of the best receivers, obviously, on the Baltimore Ravens roster and their true number 1 option, how does he fare against all of the other receivers in the league to be valued as a top 5 to top 10 receiver in the NFL? Now, specifically talking about Justin Jefferson, for example, one of the most highly regarded receivers in the entire NFL, Zay Flowers is still developing. But a lot of the best receivers in the NFL didn't become their best and final form immediately. Justin Jefferson is a great example of this. When Justin Jefferson entered the league as an elite talent, it took him more time to complete and become a better receiver when it comes to knowing defensive coverages, being more dominant when defenses are forced and pressing on him, and more consistent every single week. This is the next step for Zay Flowers to take to change his game in the next level. Zay Flowers, as we know, already has a very explosive ability and separation skills, but now it is all about becoming the receiver that defenses know that they have to stop on a game-to-game basis, but cannot stop due to how good his skill set and his game with his mindset all accumulate in the 3 to 4 phases of a game in a 4-quarter NFL game. Now, as we know, the Baltimore Ravens offense gives Zay Flowers the most perfect opportunity to take another leap and a jump. They will not have to worry about going into this upcoming season purely Lamar Jackson's ability as a runner, purely Derrick Henry's ability as a runner, but also players such as Mark Andrews over the middle and Rashad Bateman with the emergence that I believe he should have going into this upcoming season on the outside. This is something that defensive coordinators see a lot of trouble in, and it is very hard for a player to not take advantage of him in this regard. Now, specifically talking about Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers' connection from a duo perspective, Lamar and Zay have already built that connection that we know about, but more time together creates even more chemistry as a team. Some of the best quarterback and wide receiver duos understand and must understand when the receiver will break on their routes, how defenses are moving in specific plays, and what can happen when a play breaks down for you to take advantage from a quarterback and a wide receiver perspective. If Zay Flowers continues Lamar Jackson's and stays as his automatic number 1 option on the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver room, his production can reach a completely other level compared to the season high that he saw last year in terms of catches and touchdowns. But what is missing truly from this perspective? One of the biggest things going into 2026-2027 that is missing from Zay Flowers is the ability to score more touchdowns from that perspective. As we know, Zay Flowers is a very dominant wide receiver, and his explosiveness as a player is already there. But now the next step is to become a bigger scoring threat, to be one of the top 1 to 5 wide receivers in the entire NFL. If Zay Flowers can improve in the red zone and turn more of his opportunities into touchdowns, then the perception around Zay Flowers' wide receiving game overall changes immediately. A season that can see Zay Flowers touching over 1,300 to 1,400 wide receiver yards, but a total of 8 to 15 touchdowns puts Zay Flowers in a completely different conversation over who are some of the most dominant and notable wide receivers in the NFL today. Now, as we know, Zay Flowers has all of the traits to become a complete wide receiver. Zay Flowers already has the traits that make him dangerous, such as his ability to improve in specific departments. What's Zay Flowers' next step to continue this trajectory of becoming one of the NFL's most elite wide receivers is to continue to improve against press coverages since he is a smaller receiver, but also for him to be more physical on certain types of skills in his route tree, as well as him making tough sideline grabs that NFL wide receivers at the highest capability need to be able to make to be considered one of the best and highly regarded receivers in the entire NFL. Some of the biggest moments surrounding Zay Flowers going into this upcoming season comes with the territory that big play receivers and big receivers and some of the top receivers in the entire NFL cannot disappear or go ghost in big situations. And in situations where they must not be getting the ball, it is hard for you to not be frustrated as a wide receiver. But this is the standard that Zay Flowers is chasing as a whole. NFL defenses are very key on stopping star players from receiving the ball and taking these star players out of the game plan entirely. Now, with Zay Flowers and his skill set and how dynamic he is on the ball, it is very hard for him and his big play ability to be taken away from him on a play-to-play basis. But this is what NFL defenses are going to try and do on a consistent basis. With this, Zay Flowers must keep a cool and level-headed head to know in terms of route running and in terms of being a physical player, even though he is one of the smallest players from a wide receiver standpoint, it makes him stand out due to how explosive Zay Flowers is and how dependent Zay Flowers is on getting the ball in his hands specifically. Zay Flowers is one huge playoff performance, one game-winning touchdown, or one dominant performance against an elite-level defense such as the Rams with newly acquired Myles Garrett, or any of the AFC North teams that have very tough and elite defenses. These are some moments that will change the trajectory of how the league sees Zay Flowers, as well as how the fan base sees Zay Flowers in terms of being one of the most dynamic players in the entire NFL. Zay Flowers does not need to be a completely different player when it comes to him producing at the highest level. He already has the talent, he already has the explosiveness, and his connection with Lamar Jackson is key going into this upcoming season. With the Ravens offense being built around him going into this season, 2026 could be the season where Zay Flowers turns into one of the best and true superstars in this entire league. Now, let me know what you guys think about Zay Flowers and if you believe he has the ability to take a jump from being a top 10 to 15 receiver to being one of the most highly regarded receivers in the entire league in a top 1 to 5 conversation, with him being a part of the discussions with the CeeDee Lambs, the Jamar Chases, and other high-level elite wide receivers who fans around the league globally consider as some of the most highly regarded faces in the entire NFL. Don't forget to keep tuning in to Ravens Digest. We're providing daily videos every single day. You guys are not going to want to miss out on it at all. Good to see you again on this one, and we will see you on the next episode of Ravens Digest. Staying tuned and staying for the Ravens flock.